Something's not right here. This is David Carlson. He's one of the roommates of Vance Boelter, the guy that shot 2 Minnesota state legislators and their spouses, killing 2 of them. And these videos are from the next day, the next morning, at the house where Boelter lived with David Carlson and this other roommate. SWAT's been there, so they're there cleaning up afterwards. And I'm going to break this down almost sentence by sentence so you'll know exactly what's going on from a behavior and body language perspective. Now, keep in mind, this is just my opinion. This is just what I think and how it looks to me. That's all. But this guy looks suspicious to me, and I think the police need to interview him. And here's why.
He'll be dead shortly. So I just want to let you know that I love you guys both, and I wish it hadn't gone this way. I don't want to say anything more and implicate you in any way, because you guys don't know anything about this. But I love you guys, and I'm sorry for all the trouble this has caused.
The text says, I don't want to say any more and implicate you in any way because you guys don't know anything about this. But listen to how he says implicate.
I don't want to say anything more and implicate you in any way, and implicate you in any way, and implicate you in any way.
Almost like he's reading it for the first time and can't read it and doesn't understand it.
And implicate you in any way.
That looks put on to me. This is where I started thinking something's up here. Why say that in a text? And that wording is not just odd, it's weird. In a couple of minutes, you're going to find out these guys have known each other for almost 50 years. And they've been best friends since the 4th grade. That's the reason I think he knew exactly what was on his best friend's mind. This looks really suspicious to me. And keep in mind, that's the sender of this text denying plausibility and involvement for these 2 other guys 3 times in less than 30 seconds. Again, that's suspicious to me.
He was a loving, caring guy, loved his family, loved his friends, and loved God. And I don't know why he did what he did.
He's trying to make Boelter look like a great guy, just normal old good guy who loved God, his family, and his friends. And he's confused as to why he did this. And this is his subtle way of letting you know he had nothing to do with it. What's odd about this is when he says, I don't know why he did what he did.
I don't know why he did what he did. I don't know why he did what he did. What he did.
That lets us know there's internal dialogue going on up there. Now, keep in mind, he's probably nervous because he's on the news. His roommates just shot 4 people and killed 2 of them. So that's the 4th time we see denial of plausibility and involvement in this situation. And that's a whole lot of subtlety going on in there to show you he has nothing to do with it.
It's not Vance. No one will believe this. No one that grew up. He had lots of friends, trust me.
This is another shot at him creating this person in your mind to show that nobody will believe he did this. He's a great guy, and he can't believe it because he had absolutely nothing to do with it. Another subtle denial of plausibility and involvement. That's 5.
I wish I could have been there to stop him.
I wish I could have been there to stop him. Again, subtle, but right on point for showing he knew nothing about this and had nothing to do with it, and had no earthly idea this guy was going to do anything or even talked about anything like that.
I wish I could have been there to stop him.
Separating himself for the 6th time, not knowing anything about this. Can't believe it.
Jeans, body armor or bullets or any of that?
No. He was always kind of into the military stuff. But it was just that we were always like that. Me and him, we used to play army men.
He's sweeping and cleaning up because SWAT's been there the night before to see if Boelter was there. When he was asked if Boelter had any body armor or ammunition or anything like that, he talks about how Boelter was kind of into the military stuff.
He was always kind of into the military stuff.
So he knew this guy was a weapons guy. He knew he was into that kind of stuff, but he blows it off. He says, we were always like that.
He was always kind of into the military stuff. But it was just that we were always like that. Me and him, we used to play army men.
There it is. They were both into military stuff. And Boelter never showed him his Beretta, a 9mm, his gear, his clothes, his ammunition, the things you'd talk about if you were into military stuff. And this is something you would bond over with your best friend from the 4th grade that you've known for about 50 years, especially if you were both into military stuff.
We were always like that. Me and him, we used to play army men.
If two best friends are into playing pool and one of them gets a new pool cue, he's going to show his best friend the new pool cue, and they're going to go play pool. And they're going to talk about the cue, and he's going to show it to him. This doesn't sound right. And look at these photos. Boelter's wearing the military stuff. And again, David has never seen any of it. Doesn't know anything about it.
He was always kind of into the military stuff. But it was just that we were always like that.
And he also doesn't bring up the two fake police cars that Boelter owned, one he kept behind the house. In this situation, you'd at least say, well, you know, it's kind of weird because he had two police cars. One of them he used to park behind the house. You'd say something.
How long had you guys known each other?
Oh, since fourth grade, it's been 45 years, 50 years. Wow, it's been longer than that? Yeah, it must have been longer than that. Since I was 12, probably. Fourth grade. How are we? Forever we've been friends.
Yeah.
So his best friend for 50 years, who's into the military stuff just like he is, doesn't come in and say, hey, man, check this out. I got body armor, or I got a new gun, or I got a bunch of ammo, or I got a gun belt, you know, just in case a war pops off or something.
Since fourth grade, it's been 45 years, 50 years.
They don't discuss any of it. This guy had no earthly idea he had any of that stuff. Are you kidding me?
He went down to Africa, got things going down there, said he wanted to start his own companies.
So the security company, was that fully formed, or was that just an idea?
That was just some fantasy. It was you talk about it, but there was no movement on that part. And yeah, it was, he always had a fascination with military equipment. So do I, but I'm 100 miles away from killing people.
On Behavior X, my goal is to help you see beyond the surface, spot deception, and analyze the true intent behind the words. It's a mission I feel strongly about in today's biased and overwhelming landscape. Mainstream media tends to blur the truth and make it difficult to see through the chaos. This is why I'm proud to have Ground News as a sponsor. They help readers look beyond the mainstream narratives and uncover patterns in the way today's news frames recent issues or even fails to cover them in the first place. For every story you read on their app or website, you get instant access to every outlet that's reporting on it. Plus, a breakdown of each source's political bias, how subjective their reporting tends to be, and if they're independently owned or funded by corporations or governments. Ground News really helps you see the subtle ways media can heavily shape public opinion. Check it out by scanning this QR code or go to ground.news/Rouse, R-O-U-S-E. Viewers get 40% off unlimited access, whether it's for you to subscribe or for you to give it to a gift to somebody else. Ground News is independent and it's subscriber funded. And by subscribing, you're not only getting a great product, you're directly helping support my channel. Here's where we find out that Boelter was going to start a security company. And Carlson says it was just a fantasy and Boelter would never follow up on it. I want you to remember that when he said there was no movement on that part. That's important. It's going to come up again.
So the security company, was that fully formed, or was that just an idea?
That was just some fantasy. It was you talk about it, but there was no movement on that part.
Now, I would say, and it's just my opinion, just what I think, just how it looks to me, because this looks suspicious to me, that David Carlson has the same kind of equipment or something similar to it that Boelter had. And I think this is kind of his pre-admission to that. In case he does get interviewed, he can say, yeah, I already talked about that on the news. Look, you can see this video where I'm talking about it. And he's afraid he's going to be questioned. I can see it on him. That's what that kind of nervousness looks like. His breath rate increases. His blink rate increases. His stress level just shot through the roof. And listen to how he says, I'm 100 miles away from killing people.
He always had a fascination with military equipment. So do I, but I'm 100 miles away from killing people.
He doesn't say people, he says peepa.
Killing people.
What the hell's a peepa?
People.
And what does that sentence mean? I'm 100 miles away from killing any people.
I'm 100 miles away from killing people.
That's the 7th time he's separated himself from any plausibility or involvement with any of this. And I think he's hiding information here. But of course, that's just my opinion.
Apparently in his manifesto there was some stuff about Planned Parenthood.
He had a manifesto?
Yeah.
I didn't know about that.
Was there any...
He had a manifesto? I didn't know about that. Well, no shit, Hoss. But you talk like you didn't know about any of this stuff, but then you act like that's the one thing you didn't know about. That's odd.
He had a manifesto?
Yeah.
I didn't know about that.
Was there any...
Something's not right here. And when you find out your best friend had a manifesto, you're going to ask questions about that. You're going to know if you're in it. You're going to want to know what he said. You're going to want to read that thing. Where is it? How can I get a hold of it? Is it out yet? Complete lack of interest in that from that moment on. Something's not right here.
What did you know about these like squad cars he had? Like what the deal was with these cars he had?
Well, he was going to use them for his security company.
Oh,
So he bought them, and yeah, he was trying to start it up. So
because we've seen 2 today. Like, you know how many of those he had?
yeah, I forgot that he had 2. He has one. They towed it away in the back. That was his primary car, and I guess he had another one.
Did you know that the other one had lights on it and everything?
Well, this one, the one back here didn't have lights on top. It just had lights on the side.
Earlier, he said the security company was just a fantasy and Boelter wasn't going to follow up on it. He said, and I quote, there was no movement on that part.
So the security company, was that fully formed, or was that just an idea?
That was just some fantasy. It was either talk about it, but there was no movement on that part. It was either talk about it, but there was no movement on that part. There was no movement on that part. There was no movement on that part.
His story just changed.
There was no movement on that part. Well, he was going to use them for his security company.
Oh,
So he bought them, and yeah, he was trying to start it up. So
This guy's digging a hole that's getting harder and harder to climb out of from an interrogation and interview perspective.
when was the last time you talked to him?
last night, and I wish I could go back in time and stop him. Say something to stop him.
So his best friend for 50 years calls him up right before he goes out and shoots 4 people and kills 2 of them. He didn't pick up any odd language. He didn't pick up any odd voice tone. He didn't pick up anything strange or out of place. He didn't say anything weird. He didn't hint at anything. And this is all before his friend put on a latex mask, a police uniform, got in one of his fake police cars, and went and shot people. Then there's the 7th denial of plausibility and involvement.
I wish I could go back in time and stop him.
I wish I could go back in time and stop him.
I wish I could go back in time and stop him.
Something's not right here.
Was he acting different?
No.
It seemed normal.
Yeah, I mean, besides the appreciation for a friendship and all that.
So he didn't sound odd at all, except for his appreciation for their friendship and all that. What's all that? What's he talking about? If you're talking to your best friend, and all of a sudden they start telling you how much they appreciate your friendship and all that, something's up. You would say, what's up with all this, man? What's going on? Is everything cool? You want to talk about anything? Because that would sound weird. It would be off. I'm not saying your friend's saying, man, I've always had the best time with you. We're great friends, all that. Not sounding like you're wrapping everything up, which sounds like that's what this guy was probably doing, because I'm sure he thought he was going to get killed too.
Was he acting different?
No.
It seemed normal.
Yeah, I mean, besides the appreciation for a friendship and all that.
So there you have it, David Carlson. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you have any questions about body language, just email them to me, bodylanguagequestions@gmail.com, and I'll get right on it.